Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you're going to meet the great Dr. Fahmi Farah. Many people know her as the Queen of Hearts. We'll explain next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
All right, I don't know if you know this, but November and December are the most deadly months of the year when it comes to cardiac arrest. Dr. Fahmi Farah is a good friend of mine. She's a board-certified invasive cardiologist with Bentley Heart, and she's in the studio. She's also the host of the very popular show, Queen of Hearts. Thanks for coming on the show.
It's great to be back on your show, Jeff.
All right, well, let's spend a couple minutes talking about holiday heart syndrome, because you know this well. I always call it eat, drink, and be wary, because people are eating too much, drinking too much. They think they have heartburn, and it could be the first warning sign of a heart attack.
That's exactly right. Holiday heart syndrome, it's basically an umbrella of conditions that can happen as a result of exactly what you said. So during the holiday times, food tends to also be very unhealthy. There's more butter, there's more sodium, and people are just overeating in general. So it can push somebody over the edge. For example, somebody who has pre-existing condition like heart failure, they can get into acute heart failure and not be able to breathe and end up in the hospital.
Wow. And so they will misdiagnose themselves. They'll think it's just a little heartburn because they had too much turkey, and they could be having a cardiac arrest.
Well, heart attack, yes. One of the atypical symptom of a heart attack is heartburn. A lot of people might not even get a chest pain. And, after overeating, like you said, turkey and stuff, people can easily misunderstand that symptom to mean it's a GI symptom, like they're having acid reflux, heartburn symptoms, and just ignore it. And that's a lot of people can get into trouble because, when it comes to heart attack, time is life. The sooner you get help, the more likelihood that you're going to survive that heart attack and also not sustain any complications as a result of that.
Absolutely. We're going to pull up the bio page off of your hospital website. And as I was looking at this morning, preparing for the show, it kind of goes on for miles. I mean, you've pretty much been awarded every award that there is to have in the heart world. What are some of your favorite accomplishments and honors that you've achieved?
I'd have to say something that's very, very personal and close to my heart is actually what I achieved as a medical student in Texas Tech School of Medicine. That's where I did my medical education for 4 years. And, it was incredible what we were able to accomplish. I was the president of the Student National Medical Association there for 3 years.
Wow.
And so during that time, we implemented a lot of programs, and it was incredible. Like we implemented a health fair for the community where, it raised awareness, and then we created a scholarship fund program for underserved medical students. This is probably my greatest accomplishments. To me, it is very personal. I got to work with one of my greatest mentors and one of my best friends, Dr. Stephen Burke, who was the dean and the vice president of the School of Medicine at Texas Tech, and he was my mentor for this all the events, and we accomplished a lot together. We together raised close to $1 million in scholarship funds.
Wow.
By implementing a fundraiser gala. So it was incredible because when the scholarship started going out and I started getting, the reviews, they started making little video clips of the students that were receiving those scholarships. And I just cried like a baby, just how incredible it's been over the years. It's an endowed program. So even when we're no longer here and dead, like the scholarship fund and the program will continue on its own. And on that tone, like, I went to medical school. I graduated from medical school in 2011. So you do the math, how many years it's been. And then a few years back, the School of Medicine and the entire university, Texas Tech University, actually recognized what an impact it had had for their school system. And they awarded me the Distinguished Alumni Award a few years ago, the entire university recognizing the accomplishment there. So to this day, of all the things I have done, to me, that's the dearest one.
Wow. Well, you inspire me because day one, you had a difficult upbringing, and we know that because she's the host of a very popular show called Queen of Hearts, and then the show opened, she explains. Let's go ahead and roll that tape.
I've been fighting the odds since day one. I came into the world 2 months premature. The doctors had no hope. They unplugged me from the machines and handed me to my mom to say her final goodbyes. I was so small I fit in the palm of her hand. She spent the whole night praying. God must have been listening because I still had a lot of fight left in me. And I've been fighting ever since. I graduated from college with honors, and I achieved my dream of going to medical school and becoming a cardiologist. And every step of the way, people underestimated me. I do this show to inspire others. You'd be surprised at how much fight you have in you if you only believe. Welcome to Queen of Hearts.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Queen of Hearts. I'm your host, Dr. Farah. So good to have you back. So today we have a very important topic that we're going to discuss. It's a topic that's been in the news a lot lately. It is on cardiac arrest. As you know, we've seen something on live TV with Damar Hamlin collapsing on the field with cardiac arrest, as well as Lisa Marie Presley recently. It's a very important topic for everybody. For me, as an invasive cardiologist, I encounter this quite often where I have to revive a patient back. So as always, I'm going to start with a story. This is going to take us back to my residency years. I was a third-year third-year resident, an internal medicine resident. I was on call at the hospital. And the hospital policy was such that whoever the senior internal medicine resident on call is, they were responsible for running all the codes. In other words, reviving all the patients that would go into cardiac arrest. So as you know, in hospitals, if a patient has a cardiac arrest, there's an overhead page that goes around. It's called Code Blue. So wherever I was as that senior resident on call that night, if a Code Blue sign comes on or announcement goes on, it's my responsibility to run there and revive that patient. For most people, when they're on call, they usually don't even get one single code because they're not like, it's not something that happens every day. On that night, I had 5 Code Blues. So just to give you an idea, if you have one Code Blue that you're responsible for, you're pretty much going to be tied up with that case for a majority of the night because it's a very involving thing to revive somebody and to take care of them because they're very acutely ill. So you can imagine going from room to room as I'm reviving one patient with Code Blue, while in the middle of resuscitating them, another page goes on, Code Blue, 2nd floor. So just to give you an idea of how hectic our lives can be as a cardiologist and how common it is in our world to see cardiac arrest and having to revive them.
Wow. I got chills just now because, I think about what I do for a living. I help people tell their own story. You save lives for a living. Does that ever, do you ever lose sight of that? Every single day you're saving someone's life?
Actually, no, that part never gets old. It never becomes routine. When you're in it, as you're going through one of those events, of course, you have to follow protocol and, your adrenaline is running very high and you're just doing everything you can to save that life. For me, it really hits home when I'm making the drive back home, like that's when all that noise just like shuts down.
Yes.
You're in silence, and that's when it just really comes to you. And then, it's a moment with you, and I'm a very spiritual person, and God, like,
Yes.
it's a big responsibility and frankly a huge privilege to be in that position where you are literally in the person's most vulnerable condition, and you're handed this responsibility. So yes, it is quite a lot.
And do you get to meet with the patients afterwards, or their family? I mean, do you ever get to, hug the family?
Absolutely, yes. There are times when it's very difficult, because afterwards you have to tell the family what happened, whether your attempts were successful and if you're able to bring the patient back, or if it was something that, despite all your efforts, you were not able to. So yes, every time I've had the opportunity to meet with all the family members and hold their hands and just be there in that moment, I think that's very, very important.
What do you think is like the highlight of your career so far? I mean, do you remember a patient like, this is why I got into this business, this is why God put me on the planet?
There are actually several. I've had many of those moments. Actually, it'll be hard to choose one, but if I really had to choose one, I would choose. It was actually as a cardiologist. I have my own practice, as you know. This gentleman, I was his cardiologist for some time, a couple of years, and he had very devastating heart failure. It was like end stage heart failure. Really sad story. When he first came to me, he came after a heart attack. I actually saw him in the hospital. We fixed him up. His heart attack, he did delay his care a little bit, so he did sustain a little bit of complication from that, which was heart failure. But then he was doing fine. There are medications and treatments available where we can change the game, and we did that for this individual. The sad part was that along the way, he lost insurance. And unfortunately, he stopped coming to see me because he simply couldn't for financial reasons. And so for 2 years, he didn't see me. And then 2 years later, he became symptomatic, kind of similar to how it was before, like right after his heart attack. And so by the time he came back 2 years later, I did everything I could, but it was just too late. His heart had sustained too much damage, and he was in severe heart failure. So ultimately, despite doing everything, we came to the conclusion that he would need a heart transplant. That's his only way of surviving. And, we're getting into a different category here. A heart transplant in itself is a whole different conversation. It is very difficult to get a heart transplant. And so I fought the fight, and he was a good sport. He went all the way with me, and we got him on the list for a heart transplant. And he was actually just a few weeks away from getting his transplant. He was all, ready to go. And we made the last visit, I'll never forget this. We became very close friends in the process. And he became almost like a mentor, like guiding me, like, no, you have to, it was very emotional for me as well. And he gave me a lot of strength that whatever happens, he'll be happy at the end of it because I was there for him. And then as we're waiting for 2 more weeks to go by for his transplant, I one night got a call from the hospital that while he was getting his setup done for his cardiac, the transplant, he was at an outpatient visit at the hospital. He had a cardiac arrest. And so he didn't quite make it to the transplant. And, we ended up putting LVAD, which is like an artificial way of creating a circulation within his body. Despite all efforts, he did not make it. But the moment that I'll never forget is when I went to the hospital. He was, of course, intubated. He was on life support at that time, and he was completely sedated. I was so devastated because I was so hopeful that he was going to get that transplant. And I fought so hard to get him there, and we got him there. So his wife was there, and I just went and I just started talking to him. It was just me and him in that ICU room, and I didn't know if he could hear me or not, but I just spoke to him from heart. And it's just basically goodbye, and he heard me. And he understood what I said because tears started rolling down through both of his eyes. And it was just the most profound moment in my entire career, that he was almost letting me know that I'm at peace. You should be too.
Oh my God. You're going to have me in tears, so we got to end this show. We're going to end with her LinkedIn page so you can get in touch with her. But thank you so much for sharing your heart.
Of course. It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're going to put that on the screen, and God bless you. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.